What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through my ultimate guide to the upcoming double/blank game weeks. So yes, that time of the season is upon us. I like to call this kind of the clutch part of the FPL season, as with the right chip strategy, you guys can really boost up the ranks. Now in this video, I'll be giving you guys kind of an introduction to the chip strategy. I'm not going to give you guys the out and out details of when to use the wildcard, the bench boost, as I personally don't think that you guys can actually do that. So then in this video, after I give you guys the context of the game week schedule, I'll be giving you guys various game weeks where you guys can use the chips. As I always say, the chip strategy is super situational. But don't worry, as the game weeks kind of go on, I'll be giving you guys a refresher of this video and showcase my own chip strategy once it's nailed. Now why this video is actually important though is that you guys might want to use a chip within game week 25, game week 26 or game week 29, and therefore it's good to get this context now. Now if you guys aren't hyped for this part of the season, I would suggest getting hyped, because the biggest scores can really be scored from now to the end of the season. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now the first talking point I just want to go over quickly is if you guys are kind of new to FPL, if this is your first season playing, you probably won't know, but the second half of the season houses the biggest doubles and the biggest blank game weeks, and this is caused by the other cup competitions. For example, let's take game week 26, a very easy example. The Carabao Cup final will be taking place Chelsea versus Liverpool, and therefore both those two clubs and their respective fixtures are going to be cancelled. Now they won't be cancelled for good, they will be postponed, and that's going to create a double game week. So in theory, a blank game week creates a double. Now the League Cup is probably the smallest postponement. We're then going to have the FA Cup 6th round, or the quarterfinals within game week 29, and I'll showcase that shortly, but that's going to be a massive blank game week. So what do all those fixtures have to do? They have to find a new home. They're going to be taking place towards the end of the season, and therefore create a double game week. So once again, a blank game week is when a team has to have their fixture postponed. A double game week is when a team has two fixtures, or when one of those postponed fixtures are moved. So you want to avoid the blanks and you want to ride the doubles. So let's get into the actual game week schedule. And the first kind of talking point I want to go over is the actual double and blank schedule as of now. And that's going to be within 5 game weeks. So game week 25 is a double game week, game week 26 and 29 are blank game weeks, and game week 34 and 37 are going to be doubles. So let's go over them one by one. Game week 25 only currently has one double game week for Man City and Brentford. However, according to kind of the fixture schedulers, such as Ben Crellin, he has a heavy likelihood that Liverpool vs Luton will be moved to game week 25. It's a very kind of small double game week, but a game week that kind of packs a punch. Any double game week for Man City or Liverpool is going to be one to pay attention to. Now game week 26 already spoke about, that's due to the fact that the Carabao Cup final, Liverpool vs Chelsea, will be taking place, and therefore those two respective games have been cancelled, for example Chelsea vs Spurs. It's not the biggest blank in the world, only 2 fixtures, so quite a small one, but might be quite integral as Liverpool double in 25 but blank in 26. Now game week 29, the biggest blank game week of the season, as mentioned the FA Cup quarterfinals will be taking place here, and we are looking at potentially 5 fixtures in this game week. Now unfortunately right now we can only do predictions of who's going to blank at the current moment, as the FA Cup still has 1 round left before the quarterfinals. However, most Premier League squads have been drawn against easier opposition. So I think if all the favourites do progress, which I'll showcase later on as mentioned, we should have around 5 fixtures. Now after those blank game weeks, we're going to have some fun with some double game weeks, game week 34 and 37. So game week 34 is quite an interesting one. It actually collides with the FA Cup semi-finals, but because it has a free midweek, if a team progresses to the semi-finals, their fixture might be moved from the weekend to the midweek. For example, let's just take Man City. If Man City do progress, let's just say they're playing Liverpool in game week 34. Instead of playing on a Saturday or a Sunday, they'll take place on maybe a Wednesday or a Tuesday, as that's our open midweek. Now because of that open midweek, we're going to have all those double game week fixtures being moved here, and therefore it's going to be a pretty big double game week. Now game week 37 also be a pretty big double game week, another open midweek for postponed fixtures to be moved to, so we're going to end the season with quite a bang. So these 5 game weeks will basically be where your chip strategy revolves around. The doubles, the blanks, even though they're small ones, they might be quite good. And this is kind of the holistic overview. Now the first graphic I want to showcase to you guys is going to be from the one and only Ben Crellin. You guys know I've used these graphics over the previous years, just an absolute guru at these doubles and these blank game weeks. So I'm pretty sure you guys are following him on Twitter, but if you're not, go check him out. Now this is a graphic from his spreadsheet of the actual calendar from now to the end of the season. And this just showcases where the doubles and the blanks fall within the fixtures. So I'm not going to spend too much time on here. I just want to give you guys some clarity of the game week schedule once again. Let's focus on game week 25, the double, game week 26, the blank, game week 29, the massive blank, and the big double game weeks, game week 34 and game week 37. So the reason I'm showcasing this to you is that if you do want to do some future planning, you guys can, but I'll probably focus it from now to around the early 30s. Now, unfortunately, right now we can't exactly showcase what doubles will be happening in game week 34 and 37. We might be able to predict if teams do blank in 29. We can't exactly say where that postponed fixture is going to go with certainty. However, Ben Krellin and some other kind of game week schedulers have done predictions, which I'll showcase in another video when I talk about my chip strategy. Now, before we jumped onto the condensed version of Ben Krellin's planner, another graphic I want to showcase to you guys is from another asset, and that's from Mikkel Tokfim. So I've also used Mikkel Tokfim's kind of graphics over the previous years, very kind of useful from an overall point of view. So let's look from now to game week 29. So as you guys can see on screen, we no longer have the actual fixtures, they've been replaced by values, and those values range between 0 and 2. So if a team has a 1.00, that's going to be a confirmed single game week. If they have a 2.00, that's a confirmed double game week. And if they have a dash, that's a confirmed blank. Now anything between 1 and 2 is going to be the chance of a double game week, and anything between 0 and 1 is going to be the chance of a blank game week. And obviously the more extreme the number, the better or the worse. For example, let's take Man City in game week 25, they have a 2.00 as that's a confirmed double game week. If you look at Liverpool, that's a 1.9 as there is a likely chance, a very likely chance, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. Then Liverpool in game week 26 have a dash or a blank game week as they are in the Carabao Cup final. The reason I like this is it just kind of showcases to you guys from a value point of view or more holistic overview when the doubles and the blanks and the chance of them happening is. Now this might be useful if you guys want to target specific squads. You can look at Brentford or Man City, they have the highest amount of fixtures within the next couple game weeks. However, they do have a high chance of blanking game week 29. This will allow you to look at the projections, maybe plan your squad rotation up to and leading to that massive blank game week, and maybe pick up a few double game week players along the way. So you guys can pause the screen right now if you want to look at this graphic a little bit longer, otherwise go follow Mikkel Tokfim over on Twitter. So now let's go over some game week planning from now till game week 29. We're going to pick up a few double game weeks, game week 25, a few blank game weeks, game week 26 and 29, and a potential double between 27 and 28. So on screen right now is going to be a condensed version of Ben Krellin's planner, as mentioned only for the next few game weeks, as you might want to use one of those chips sometime soon. So in game week 25, the confirmed double for Man City and Brentford, and the high likelihood of a double for Luton and Liverpool. And whenever these two squads have a double game week, you have to pay attention. That's just because the highest value assets, Mo Salah and Erling Haaland, are part of these squads, and therefore the triple captain comes into account. And then also in game week 26, the blank game week for Luton, Liverpool, Spurs and Chelsea, because of that Carabao Cup final. Now if you guys look at game week 27 or 28, you guys see that there might be a slight double game week for Luton and Bournemouth, but Ben Krellin showcased here that it is unlikely. Now when you guys look at game week 29, you can see how many teams might have a potential blank game week, and I'll talk about that shortly. Now I just want to go back to game week 25 and 26, and the biggest kind of thing to take note of is going to be those Liverpool assets. You guys might want to bring them in for a double game week, but then take them out for the blank game week, and that's why you might be tempted to actually use the free hit in game week 26. What I'd probably say is that if you guys can maybe avoid that, that might be quite good, as the free hit might be more useful in the future game weeks. So once again, watch out for that blank game week. You got those Spurs assets, the Chelsea assets, and the Liverpool assets, and they make up a good majority of our squads. Now the next graphic to go over is going to be that massive game week 29. As mentioned, the FA Cup quarterfinals take place on the same weekend, and therefore if a team progresses to the quarterfinals, they'll have a blank fixture. Now right now there are 2 fixtures or 4 teams that are confirmed to play, and that's Burnley vs Brentford and Fulham vs Spurs. So I know we just mentioned taking out those Spurs assets because they're blank in game week 26, or before game week 29 you might want to get them back in, as if you're not using the free hit in this game week, they have a confirmed fixture. Now if you guys see a team in green, that's going to be a team that's been knocked out, but if they are facing a team in red or a team in orange, that means they could potentially still blank. Now unfortunately the teams in orange are slightly annoying. Those are squads that still have a replay, and that's going to happen between game week 23 and game week 24, and the biggest one you want to watch out for is Aston Villa and Chelsea. So these two teams do play each other in the replay of the FA Cup, and their opponents West Ham and Arsenal are going to be waiting to see if they have a blank in game week 29. Now out of those two fixtures, don't really know which one I would rather have. I own a lot of West Ham and Aston Villa assets, but as well as Arsenal and Chelsea assets. At least one of those games will be taking place in Gameweek 29. So unfortunately a wait and see game, and that's why I said you can't really wrap up your chip strategy at the current moment. Still a few unknowns that we have to kind of plow through, and this is definitely a big one for Gameweek 29. Now unfortunately there are kind of fixtures in this kind of planner that have two teams, for example Man City and Brighton, that are still both in the FA Cup. That's why the blank percentage is going to be so high, 98.5%, so Ben Crellin's basically saying this might as well be a confirmed blank, as both teams should theoretically progress. Now the one thing I just want to stress is these are predictions. If there are upsets in the FA Cup, for example Liverpool lose, then Everton vs Liverpool is a confirmed fixture. But if you were to play the odds, you probably have to say that Liverpool do progress. Now the reason I said Gameweek 29 might have 5 fixtures is because that's what Ben Crellin's projecting, 5.3 to be exact. And as long as we have some assets from some important teams such as an Arsenal vs Chelsea in this game week, we might be able to escape using the free hit, as having 9 players for this fixture might be enough. So just keep this in the back of your mind as you guys are using those game week kind of transfers. Try go for the confirmed players if you don't want to use the free hit, otherwise you can always use the chip. Now the last talking point I want to go over as promised is an introduction to the chip strategy. While I don't think that you guys can kind of lock in your strategy right now, there might be a few chips you want to use within the next couple of game weeks. So that chip I'm talking about is going to be the triple captain. I think you guys can use this in a double game week preferably. That's game week 25, 34 or 37. But I think game week 25 might be the one to use it in. Now the reason I'm saying that is because it's such a small double game week, you might not want to use the bench boost, and therefore the triple captain might be the only viable chip. But why it's viable is Man City and Liverpool both have double game weeks, and therefore if Mo Salah is back from injury, him and Erling Haaland are perfect options. Now I know those options might be slightly more boring. I mean, Erling Haaland is probably going to be captained by everyone, but I guess you can go differential if you guys want to. So please just pinpoint game week 25 if Erling Haaland's back to full fitness, maybe Mo Salah's back for that double game week. They're very viable options for the triple captaincy. Now of course you guys can use it for game week 34 or 37, but unfortunately at the current moment we don't know what those fixtures are going to be. So you might have to hedge your bet and just hope that they're 2 great ones. That's why, as mentioned, I almost think that most managers should probably use it in game week 25, almost getting it out the way. Now in terms of the bench boost, you guys can use it in a double game week as mentioned, game week 25, 34, 37. However, in a single game week, this could be perfectly viable, but I'd probably use this as close to after the wildcard as possible, as long as you guys still have the wildcard chip. You guys know how I love a wildcard plus a bench boost combination, basically just guarantees points. At the current moment, the bench boost is quite hard to plan for, and the reason for that is that the wildcard is a bit up in the air. So personally, I'm kind of leaving it to the end of the season, and then I'll just see when the fixtures do lie. Now in terms of the free hit, this is a very kind of flexible chip, can use it on a blank game week and a double game week. So game week 29, 34, 37 is where I would look. Now of course you guys can use it in game week 25 or game week 26, but as mentioned I don't exactly know if that's optimal, so I'd probably save it for one of the later game weeks. Now there's kind of 2 strategies. You can use it on a blank game week, be quite defensive, get yourself a full starting 11, but in game week 29 if the fixtures aren't great, it might not have that much of an upside. Whereas in game week 34, 37, the more aggressive approach, you can get the best double game week starting 11 as possible. Now the one thing I want to say about game week 37, this is the second last game week of the season. If the Premier League is wrapped up, the relegation is wrapped up, we might see some heavy rotation here, which might be quite annoying for a bench boost or a free hit. But the free hit might have the advantage there. If you guys can see, maybe one of your options is going to be benched, you can bring on their replacement or their kind of sub, and therefore get a pretty good starting 11 that's differential over the common manager. So just something to think about, but game week 37 might be super intense, the relegation battle might not be locked up, we might have a title race till game week 38, which would play into our hands as our FPL manager. So these 3 chips I would probably prioritize over double or blank game weeks, but as mentioned the bench boost can be used in a single, as long as your bench looks strong. Now the last chip, the wild card, is going to be quite situational. I think currently between game week 31 and 35 is when to use it. That's probably excluding game week 34, but if you guys don't have another chip, you can use it there. But I think this is kind of the sweet spot between the 2 strategies. So if I was to break down my kind of 2 strategies at the current moment, the first one is to dead end into game week 29, therefore use the wildcard chip game week 30 or game week 31. But game week 31 has the fixture turns. Or what you guys can do is use the wildcard chip before game week 34, after game week 34, and therefore set up a bench boost in game week 34 or 37 if you want to. Both those strategies at the current moment are looking quite strong. Once again, the first one is to dead end into blank game week 29, therefore wildcard in game week 31 to get a fresh team, or use the wildcard in game week 35 or 33, to use the bench boost in 34 or 37. There might be other strategies as well that you guys might like, using the wildcard in game week 26, 27, that sort of thing, but I think I'm favoring the later wildcard, to be honest. Now, as I always say, the chip strategy is super situational. Please look at your own team when you plan your schedule, but let me go over what I'm currently favoring. So if I was to look at my own team, I would probably be looking at the triple captain in game week 25. As mentioned, it's Erling Haaland or Mo Salah, depending on the fitness, and therefore using my bench boost a little bit late on in game week 34. I'll therefore use the free hit in game week 37, maybe take advantage of some rotation for some easier opposition, and then use my wildcard in game week 31 after the date ending into blank game week 29. So once again, why I'm not wildcard in game week 30 is if you guys look at the game week 29 fixtures, for example, Spurs, they have a good fixture in game week 30, and therefore you might want to keep them for that game week. So therefore, wildcard in game week 31, it is a midweek, but that's okay. Preparing for the bench boost in 34 and not having to worry about 37. So currently the strategy on paper does look quite good, but as mentioned, it's not locked in. There's still too many variables to consider. The only thing right now locked in is probably the triple captain in game week 25. So the comments down below, after absorbing all this information and the chip strategy, what's your initial look or what's your initial schedule? And is it any different to the one that you see on screen right now? Don't worry, I'll be making a chip strategy video that's dedicated to the more kind of fixture base. I just wanted to give you guys the kind of groundwork or the introduction, as this is super integral to actually deciding what to do with your chips. Now, if you guys have any questions, comment them down below. I know your kind of chip strategy might be quite a tough one, quite a dilemma, so I'm here to help you as far as I can. Or join me on my Discord server, it's the link in the description, as I am slightly more active over there. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the team selection coming tomorrow after the games tonight in Game Week 22. Hopefully they're absolute bangers. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.